Hi, welcome to Amanda's Book Corner. I'm Amanda, and this is my review of The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocumb. I found out about this book late last year, and as soon as I read the synopsis, I was super excited for it, and I actually pre-ordered it on the spot, and so I was so excited for it to come out. It came out on February 1st, only a couple of weeks ago, and I was counting on the days until my pre-order would finally arrive at my house, and as soon as it did, I dove right in. The Violin Conspiracy focuses on a young man named Ray McMillian. He's a black violinist, which makes him a bit of an anomaly among his fellow classical musicians. At the beginning of the book, his heirloom violin, a Stradivarius, is stolen, and it sends him into a panic because this is the most important thing to him, and on top of that, it is worth upwards of $10 million. Furthermore, it's one of his few connections to his late grandmother, who he was very close to. The violin is stolen while he's staying in New York City. He doesn't live there, but he's at a hotel. And it's not until he gets back home to Charlotte that he realizes that his violin is actually not in the case that he's been carrying around with him. He goes right back to New York City, gets the police involved, and then the FBI, and then people who are more specialized in stolen art and stolen artifacts. It's a big mystery who stole the violin and why, because as you get further into the book, you start to realize how many enemies Ray has. Not enemies per se, but people who are definitely not on his side and maybe want money rather than violin in their life. After the first part of the book, in which the violin is stolen, we go back in time and we get to know Ray's past. We get to see what he was like when he was a teenager, what his family was like, his family dynamics, how he got the violin, how he went on to major in music in college, and how he became a soloist, which is what he is doing now. Eventually, it all catches up to the day of the theft and the aftermath of it, until we finally start to put the clues together and figure out what happened. I really loved The Violin Conspiracy. It has a lot of interesting themes in it, and a lot of things that I think will really ring true for people who are reading it, and they can really empathize with Ray. I think Ray is a wonderful character, first and foremost. He's such a kind and considerate person, but he's also very ambitious. I love how much he truly loves music, and he truly loves playing violin. He works so hard at it, despite the many hurdles that he has to jump in order to reach his goals that he has with playing classical music. One of those hurdles, and one which I could personally identify with, was that he was poor when he was growing up. He didn't have enough money to get a proper violin of his own. He had to use a rental from the school. He couldn't afford a private violin instructor, and so he had to make do with what he learned in class and what he practiced on his own. I also grew up poor, so I could definitely relate to a lot of that, and I did really feel for him, and I did really understand that hurdle pretty intimately. Another hurdle, which I think is so heartbreaking, is how little his family, and especially his mom, care about his violin or even support him. His family is not only disinterested in him playing violin, they're actively unsupportive of it and actually very annoyed by him playing violin, especially his own mother. His mother calls it noise, and she's always complaining about him practicing violin, even though he has a mute on it. And she's just, I don't know, I just think his mom in particular, his family overall, but especially his mom, were just, I don't know, so wicked, like trying to tear him down and tear him away from his dreams, and something that he's very talented at and something that could actually turn into a career. Instead of supporting him and lifting him up and encouraging him, it feels like they're always just tearing him down and telling him to just drop out of school and go work at Popeyes. It's just, I thought his family was a little bit toxic. There are only really two exceptions in his family that actually were kind and compassionate, and those would be his grandma Nora and his Aunt Rochelle. I think they were both wonderful characters, and I love that despite his other family members, they bring a lot of support to him, and they encourage him, and they're always there for him. The third and perhaps biggest hurdle that Ray faces is that he is black, and he faces a lot of racism just in general, but also specifically within music and the classical music community. It's so horrible and heartbreaking to see the different racist people that Ray interacts with. One early scene takes place at a wedding. It's his first chance to play music and actually get paid for it. And he's going to play as part of a quartet at a wedding, and he almost doesn't get to play because some racist man won't let him in and thinks that because Ray is black, he'll ruin the wedding. This man is overtly racist, and it was just such a horrible thing that Ray went through, and I was angry on his behalf throughout the whole scene. And that's just one of many scenes, unfortunately, where Ray does face racism. It's throughout the whole book, and you can see it every step of the way, how his own music teacher at school is racist against him and doesn't give him opportunities to try out for things, how it's very hard for him to get accepted in college, and not just among his fellow students, but also among the professors that teach him. And then later, when he's actually working as a soloist professionally, he still continuously faces racism from people who are just like, oh, he's just a token black person. He's just here for affirmative action. He's just here as a PR stunt. It's endless, and it makes me so angry every single time. As you can see, I'm a white person, and I'm lucky that I've never faced racism or really any other bigotry of any kind. I do really hate how many racist people there are in the world, and I hate that it's something that is so common that they face basically every single day with all these random people that they interact with that are just so hateful for no reason. I don't know. It makes me angry, and I just wish people could be better to other people, and I don't know. I don't understand why people are so hateful and so filled with hatred and just tear people down, and I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox, but it does make me so angry. And another big thing is like when Ray gets accosted by cops on not one but two different occasions. I was very scared on his behalf during a scene in Baton Rouge, and then again when he was in Boston. And these are scenes that definitely made me think of what I've seen throughout the media with so much police brutality against black people. So again, these are things that are very real. And I actually find it very interesting at the end in the author's note, the author, Brendan Slocumb, did mention that a lot of these things are things that actually happened to him. He drew a lot of inspiration from his own life, and there are several scenes in here that are basically actual things that he went through. I think he mentioned the wedding scene and the Baton Rouge ones were both events that actually happened to him, and he kind of turned them into a fictional narrative here. But it's just, I don't know, it's so unfortunate that he's had to go through this, and so many other people have had to go through these kinds of encounters throughout their lives. It is pointed out that there is a lot of racism systematically within the classical music community. One stat that I saw in the book, which is true by the way, is that only about 1.6% of classical musicians are black, which is dismally low number. That's horrible. Then that number only grows to 12% if you include all people of color, which again is still a dismally low number. And so I think it's really horrible how overwhelmingly white the classical music community is, and I think it needs to do a lot better job of being more diverse and being more inclusive. But it was a really inspiring book. I was really happy to see how Ray rose up despite the odds, despite his family, despite being poor, despite the racism. Despite all of it, he really pushed ahead, and a lot of that is thanks to having a wonderful mentor in Dr. Janice Stevens. I thought she was a wonderful character too. Like his grandma Nora and his Aunt Rochelle, she was another very uplifting figure in his life, and I think that was very important for Ray, and not just in terms of boosting his confidence and giving him a chance to actually grow as a musician, but also in opening up doors for him that would otherwise have stayed closed for a lot longer. And of course, at the heart of all of this, there is the matter of the missing violin. It was stolen, someone's asking for a huge ransom, and there's a lot of different people that it could be. Throughout the book, you start to suspect maybe his family is behind it. Maybe this creepy racist family, the Marx family, maybe they're behind it. Maybe it was some random person who kind of stole it as a sort of crime of opportunity. Maybe it was the maid of the hotel. Maybe it's someone that Ray personally knows. There's a lot of different suspects, and as you go back in time and start to see the different issues that were arising over the year leading up to the theft of the violin, you start to see everyone as a suspect, and you see what their motives are and how they might have done it. And so it's really interesting, and it makes you think a lot. I did suspect, there was something that I suspected, and in the end I was right, so I was pretty happy about that. I think I could be a detective. But it was well done, so I can see why it took some time to get to that answer. While Ray's going through these different lawsuits and the theft of his violin, he's also preparing for a very important and very prestigious competition, the Tchaikovsky competition, and it's fun to also see him go to Russia and compete in this against other top violinists, and it's really fun to see how hard he works and how talented he really is, and you can see that shine throughout the competition. Of course, I'm not going to tell you what the results are, but overall I was very happy with how that entire section of the book went as well. So I thought The Violin Conspiracy was a very fun and interesting book. It's not your typical straightforward mystery thriller. It definitely has a lot more to it. It's kind of like maybe half mystery and half family drama, but I really loved it, and I love how it highlights classical music and specifically a Black violinist within classical music. And I thought it was very well done, and I really enjoyed this book. So it completely lived up to my expectations. I'm so glad I pre-ordered it, and I'm so glad that it was as amazing as it is. So in the end, I gave it 5 stars. This is only his debut novel, but I'm predicting now that Brendan Slocumb might become one of my favorite authors. He's already mentioned what his next book is going to be. I don't think he's revealed the title yet, but I'm definitely excited to read his next book, which I think comes out in about a year. He's definitely an author I'm going to keep following, and I'm sure I'm going to love all of his books. His next book is also about music, so I do love that because if you've seen my previous videos, you'll notice that I do have a particular affinity for music. So he's definitely one that I'll be reviewing more in the future. Also, one final note, if you're following my music challenge, you might remember that my February challenge is books about Black musicians. And so that's actually the reason I chose that theme is because of the Violin Conspiracy. I'll just reveal it now. So of course I had to read this book during the challenge that it inspired. So I'm really happy that my Black musicians challenge is underway, and I have a few more books that I'm planning to read for that. I think this is the first one I actually got to this month, but no worries, I still have a little bit of time to read a few more books for that challenge. So I hope you enjoyed this book review video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. And to make sure you don't miss any more of my videos, please ring the bell to get all my notifications. I put out about 2 to 3 book review videos like this one every week, as well as one to do other videos like blogs and listicles. So thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!